From KVUE News in Austin, you're watching Texas This Week with Ashley Goodo.
Good morning. Another Texas Democrat is entering the race for the U.S. Senate, and a new poll shows he has his work cut out for him. We'll break it down, but first, let's get to the 3 things you need to know in Texas politics. Governor Greg Abbott is taking on the task of regulating hemp himself. On Wednesday, he issued an executive order banning the sale of hemp products to children and adults younger than 21 and added testing and labeling requirements. It comes after Abbott vetoed a hemp ban that passed during the regular session, and lawmakers couldn't reach a deal on regulating hemp during the special session. The order is not going over well with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who wants a ban. He put out a statement criticizing the order. 2 Texas universities are making headlines this week. At Texas A&M University, a dean and department head were removed and a professor fired after video surfaced showing the professor clashing with a student who claimed gender identity lessons were being taught in the children's literature course. The next day, Texas State University leaders fired a professor, saying comments he made at a socialism conference off campus, quote, advocated for violence. Leaders of the American Association of University Professors say the firings set a dangerous precedent and weaken academic freedom. DPS leaders are advising state lawmakers to be vigilant after the killing of a political activist in Utah. KVUE News obtained a memo sent to legislative staffers noting an uptick in violent rhetoric toward political groups. Troopers are advising less social media exposure and canceling public events. This week, State Representative James Talarico launched his campaign for U.S. Senate. We sat down to talk about why he's getting into the race. Talk to us a little bit about this decision to run for U.S. Senate.
Yeah, I firmly believe that all 30 million Texans deserve a U.S. Senator who's going to represent their interests, not the interests of billionaire mega donors. And right now, on the other side, we've got Ken Paxton and John Cornyn running to be our next U.S. Senator, and both of them have sold out working people in the state of Texas to enrich their own donors. And that is the heart of this broken, corrupt political system of ours. That's what I'm running against, and it's what I hope to change if I'm elected to this position.
Obviously, you are not the only well-known Democrat running to represent the party to face off with either Paxton or Cornyn. Talk to us about the decision to challenge former Congressman Colin Allred.
Well, you're probably not supposed to start political campaigns by saying something nice about your opponent, but I have tremendous respect for Congressman Allred, and I'm not running against him. I am running a positive campaign, making the case for why my experience, why my skills, why my values and my vision are the right fit for this particular race in this particular year. And so I hope that this primary is positive and healthy and productive so that it can make all of us stronger in the process.
I hear you. I understand the desire to have a positive campaign. I think that is admirable. However, the reality is you're going to have to tell voters why you're the better choice in March than former Congressman Allred, who already got the Democratic nomination to run for Senate before. So I want you to really hone in and tell us why are you the better choice.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about my record and what I bring to the table. You know, I first got elected to the state house by flipping a Trump district that no one thought was winnable. People had given up on my district, and I decided to run as an underdog. And I ran an aggressive, authentic, unconventional campaign that ended up winning on election night. That's the exact playbook that I want to run statewide in this upcoming cycle. For too long, we've had campaigns that don't inspire people, that don't move people. They feel the same as everything else you see. I'm hoping this campaign can be different. That's how I want to run. It's how I've run in the past, and I hope to bring those experiences to this new challenge.
With State Representative Talarico jumping into the race, the number of candidates vying for the Democratic nomination now sits at 5. Also running is former U.S. Congressman and 2024 Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate Colin Allred, former astronaut and ISS Commander Terry Virts, former flight attendant Mike Swanson, and student Emily Morgul. I always like to start off with the same question. Tell us who you talk to when you talk to them.
Sure, we talked to 1,200 registered voters across Texas in a demographically representative sample. We collected data between August 22nd and September 1st. So, people want to put that in perspective. Right before the second session ended, technically.
Well, all throughout that second special session and a little bit in the first, there was a lot of speculation about State Representative James Talarico. And this week, he made it official. He launched his bid for the U.S. Senate. He wants to be the Democratic primary. You guys asked about favorability. Talk to us about what you asked voters.
Sure. We gave people some folks that are generally being discussed in a prominent way as being potential Democratic candidates. And so this is not anything near a ballot. We know that only about 19% of Texans say that they've heard a lot about the Senate race, so it doesn't make any sense to us to put ballots in front of people at this point. So we found that about, not surprisingly, most well-known, highest favorability ratings, former Congressman Beto O'Rourke, who's run statewide 3 times now. He was viewed favorably by 73% of Democrats, and only 10% viewed him unfavorably. Not far behind Beto O'Rourke, Colin Allred viewed favorably by 63%, unfavorably by 12%. Again, all Democrats. You asked about State Representative Talarico. He was viewed favorably by 31% of Democrats and unfavorably by only 9%. Now, on one hand, he's well below candidates like Beto O'Rourke and Colin Allred, both of whom have run statewide, spent tens of millions of dollars, are pretty well known from running previously. Interestingly enough, State Representative Talarico at 31.9 is pretty much in the ballpark of where Colin Allred was at this stage of the campaign in the last cycle in August of 2023. Also interesting in that we also did a favorability rating of Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, really popular among Democrats and really well known, 61% favorable, 7% unfavorable. Now, she's not in the race, and I don't think there's a ton of expectation that she's going to get in, but her name has been kind of tossed about, and I think even she allowed for a couple trial balloons, so that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, indeed it was. On the flip side, when it comes to Republicans, we've been seeing a lot of polling lately that shows U.S. Senator John Cornyn is gaining popularity among Republican voters compared to his competitor, Attorney General Ken Paxton, who wants to unseat him. You guys also asked Republicans. What did they say?
Yeah, we're not seeing as many signs of that as some people are saying, and particularly some of the campaign polling, although it's not all campaign polling. When we asked these favorability ratings, they look not too different from what we saw in June. John Cornyn was rated favorably by 42% of Republicans, unfavorably by 25%. That's a pretty consistent number for him, at least over the last year or so. Attorney General Paxton still ahead of him ahead of Cornyn in terms of favorability ratings. Paxton viewed favorably by 55%, about a 13 percentage point edge over Cornyn, and unfavorably by 17. And this is the pattern that we've seen in this race so far, in which among Republicans, particularly likely Republican primary voters, Ken Paxton is viewed more favorably than Senator Cornyn. I think the interesting thing about these numbers is that Senator Cornyn has been trying to drive up Attorney General Paxton's negative numbers among Republicans with some spending on social media, other kinds of digital media, and it doesn't seem to be having much of an impact, at least in the numbers that we're seeing.
You can see more from the Texas Politics Project poll at KVUE.com. That's Texas This Week.